Day one is upon us, and I've got to be honest, it feels like Christmas. Welcome to PAX, welcome to Seattle, welcome to our official event coverage of the Magic the Gathering World Championship for 2016. I'm your host, Rich Hagan, for the next 5 amazing days, and I am alongside the Pro Tour historian, Mr. Brian David Marshall, and on the far end there, Ian Duke from Inside Wizards of the Coast R&D. An amazing 5 days ahead of us, 4 of those featuring the World Championship. Brian, what are you most looking forward to as we head in to World Championship week?
That's pretty easy. You saw the roll-in, 24 players distilled to the top of the field over the course of an entire Pro Tour season. I want to see these 24 players competing in the 3 formats we have going on this weekend and just watch them in action, watch Magic in its, I think, purest form that we get to see all year.
Ian, how about you?
Yeah, this is just the culmination of a year worth of Magic action. These players have been just working their butts off, trying to prepare for this event. They're going to be at the top of their game. It's just so much Magic concentrated into 24 players. I can't wait to see what comes out.
Now, let's do the personal stuff out of the way. Full disclosure, you have a family interest in this event.
That's right. Among the 24 competitors is my brother Reed. So if I had to pick one, person that I'm rooting for, it'd definitely be him.
Right. Now, and he has run the full gamut of emotions in this tournament. He's come in first time and ended up right at the bottom of the heap. He's come in the following year. He's got all the way to the final. And it's just such BDM, such a topsy-turvy tournament where every round you're playing a Pro Tour champion, a Hall of Famer, another Pro Tour champion, a Player of the Year.
Yeah, I talked to Reed, actually. We'll hear from him a little later in the event, where he just talked about the fact that you're going to sit down at a draft table with 8 of the best players in the world. It's going to be one of the most elite draft pods you'll ever see, and someone's going to go 0-3. And he's just like, that's crazy. There's not like this sense like at the Pro Tour when you get off to a bad start and you go 1-2 or 0-3, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll play, someone who's just
in their
going to give me a shot to catch my breath.
Right.
And he's like, no, you could just play a Hall of Famer that round.
Yep, it's going to be extraordinary stuff. So this is how it's going to work, because the World Championship has a structure like no other. First of all, we only have 24 players, so that means there's a lot of matchups that the storylines develop as the week goes on. People play each other again and again as the formats go on. Let's take a look at the schedule and the formats for the 2016 World Championship. BDM, mark our card.
Well, you know what? Day one is going to look very similar to what you've seen if you've watched the Pro Tour during this year. Albeit a little bit shorter. We're going to start off with 3 rounds of draft. Again, we talked about that idea of, it's going to be 3 incredibly stacked draft pods of Platinums, Hall of Famers, and Pro Tour champions drafting Eldritch Moon Shadows over Innistrad. At the end of those 3 rounds, we're going to move to the standard format. This is a format that we saw play out at the Pro Tour. We saw it play out at some GPs, and now we're going to see what these players have taken from those events and what they've learned about the format over the course of playing for a couple weekends and what they're going to bring to the standard format.
So that's today. Tomorrow we come back, we do 3 more rounds of draft. Again, it's Eldritch Moon and Shadows over Innistrad. And then Ian, a big day, moving day, as you might call it in golf, where the players who are still in contention have to get from round 11 to round 14 in Modern. Modern's going to be really interesting Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be like the playoff there. That's where all the action is concentrated, and we'll see, which 4 players come out on top there.
And then BDM, what do we go back to on Sunday?
Well, you know what? We go back to standard, and that's people have spent extra effort to get their standard decks right. They really, you talk to people, they really focus on it, because if you're going to win this event, you have to have the standard deck that can win not only those 4 Swiss rounds, but those crucial 2 elimination rounds on Sunday.
All right, well, why don't we take a look at what's on offer this weekend? Because, of course, the power, the glory, the majesty, and the piece of Magic history. But we've got cold, hard cash on display as well. Ian, what's on the docket?
Rich, we are giving away $250,000 this weekend, $250,000. That's $70,000 to first place, $40,000 to second place, and just for being in this tournament, every single player is guaranteed to earn at least $2,500.
And that second half there, where it says 1 pro point for every match won in the Swiss rounds. BDM, that equates as we head towards the back end of the season. A lot of months away, a lot of Magic still to be played. But the next 3-4 days for these players is going to determine a lot about whether they become platinum again in a year's time.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very elite opportunity to accrue pro points that are just crucial towards getting back to the World Championship, becoming your national champion, and getting to gold and platinum as soon as possible.
All right, now if you're a regular viewer on our Pro Tour coverage, you're used to turning up at 9 a.m. every morning and regular as clockwork. There we are. It's a little bit different this week because we've got so much else to cram in. Let's take a look at our full broadcast schedule for you. 9 a.m., well, here we all are already on Pacific time. Tomorrow, it's 11 o'clock. That's when the draft will get underway with our coverage from PAX as well. So much stuff coming there, you'll see in a moment. The weekend, it's 10 a.m. both days. And then Monday, Labor Day here in the United States, where you get to rest easy on Labor Day, it's 1 p.m. But we're mixing and matching our coverage, part here from the World Championship itself, but also so much to bring you from the new world of Kaladesh. Let's take a look. Here's our schedule as we begin on Thursday, and we move along, and it's all day today. It's the World Championship, of course. But there you see, once we hit tomorrow, we're going to begin with our Kaladesh opening program. If there's one thing that you want to mark your card for, Ian, I know you were sort of watching this and you're heavily involved with Kaladesh.
Absolutely.
That opening program is absurd.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. There's going to be all kinds of things to see, preview cards, beautiful artwork, learn about the story and the setting. Definitely check it out.
And you're in one of the panels, right, tomorrow? You the mechanics?
I am. I'm in the Kaladesh mechanics panel, so you can check that out if you want to learn about what mechanics are in the set and sort of how they were designed and developed and what we were thinking about.
Okay, so that's going to be great. Then on we go to the weekend. Once we get to Saturday, and of course you've got draft on Friday, we begin Saturday with our World Championship coverage again, BDM, and it's modern.
Yeah, that's modern, and this is where we get to see players had 192 deck lists from the 3 modern GPs last weekend to pour over, see if they wanted to make any last-minute adjustments to their weapon of choice, and we're going to see what modern looks like.
A ton of great stuff through the rest of Saturday. Sunday, well, we go once again center stage for the World Championship. Ian, you're going to be with the pros talking about Kaladesh first thing in the morning.
Yeah, we'll be going over some of the preview cards that we saw throughout the weekend, talking about the mechanics and getting the first impressions from the highest level players.
That's the spikiest of spike.
Yeah,
It's like, I don't care what it looks like. I care whether it counters this or that, or burns this
That's
or
right.
that, or fills that hole in this format. It's going to be great stuff. And then it's our World Championship Final Four. But there's still more to come. Monday, our 5th day of live coverage from here at PAX. You'll see a ton of great stuff. And I want to mark your card. That closing program, it is not just a recap. There are some surprises in store that you will not want to miss. So that is the shape of Magic at PAX here in Seattle. We thank you wherever you are in the world, whether you're just down the road or half a world away. Thanks for being part of our global celebration of Kaladesh and the World Championship. So who are these 24? Let's take a look. So many great names. We divided them into 4 categories for you, and we're going to begin with the Masters. So let's take a look. Here we are, Owen Turtenwald, LSV, Tew, Carvalho, and BBD. They are all BDM Masters.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to start at the top of that list with Owen Turtenwald. Owen Turtenwald, you look at all of the slots he occupied in this. He also got elected into the Hall of Fame. He'll be getting enshrined at Pro Tour Kaladesh in just a few weeks, actually. And someone with some unfinished business from the last Pro Tour, he got as far as the finals, lost to Seth Manfield, and he has basically said nothing short of victory is acceptable this weekend.
Now, I mean, that's just terrifying to put yourself under that level of pressure when sometimes the top card of the deck isn't a spell, it's a land, and sometimes it just comes in the wrong order. And I think that's one of Owen's great strengths, is that he is willing to put himself to that mark. And a lot of players, even here, are not willing to do that.
I think Owen is certainly willing to do that, and he certainly has said, he just wants to play his best Magic. But if he doesn't go into a tournament aiming to be at the pinnacle, the last man standing when the event is over, then he's like, why am I even showing up to play?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Rich, you talked about, sometimes your deck gives you the wrong card or things just don't break your way. None of the players here are going to accept that as an excuse. Owen, the least of all, right? Like, he's going to be just clawing for every little advantage he can get and not settling for luck as an excuse in any way.
You will certainly hear from Owen Turtenwald in just a little bit. Before round 1, we had a chance to sit down with him. Really powerful stuff from the reigning player of the year. You'll hear from him in just a little bit. But That's our Masters. What about our champions? Let's take a look at those. So we've got 6 players here who are all trophy winners. Seth Manfield is your reigning world champion. Then Niels Norlander, the Magic Online champion. And then it's our season highlighters. Kazuyuki Takamura, Jay Chen Tao, Steve Rubin, and Lucas Blahon. And Ian, one of the fun things about the Pro Tour, until Lucas Blahon broke the stretch in Eldritch Moon, the first 3 Pro Tour champions were all claiming the title in their first ever Sunday appearance.
Wow, that's a really interesting fact there. But, all 6 of those players, proven champions, they have shown their dominance at the highest stages of Magic. And, having gotten those wins under their belt, I think they're going to have a lot of confidence coming in this weekend.
BDM, what's your take on Niels Norlander? He was not amongst the favorites for the Magic Online Championship, which he won. He is not among the favorites for the World Championship here, which he ...
Niels, a lot of times we'll see the Magic Online champion player come to an event like this, and they don't have a lot of experience at physical tournament play. That's not the case for Niels. Niels is someone who's a veteran of the European Grand Prix circuit.
I mean, he has Grand Prix top 8s from almost a decade ago.
Yeah, someone who's played on the Pro Tour, many years before he got back to it this year. And, he's someone who's acquitted himself admirably. I mean, he obviously would love to have had some better finishes this year, but, is really happy with how he's playing Magic, and I think is not fazed by the stage that he's on.
Well, I mean, he chose to become a Magic professional off the back of winning the Magic Online World Championship. So this is someone who this wasn't a freak 3 days of competition. This is the sign that it's time for me to push the button on where I actually want to be in my life. So good luck to him, of course. So those are the champions. Now let's go around the world. Wherever you are, who are you going to be cheering for in your local region? So these are the players who did the best in the geographic areas of the world. 3 from Japan, 2 Europeans, 2 from Latin America, and just that one lonely North American. And the only reason for that, it isn't divided that way, it's just the other top pro points in the regions. Those points got swallowed up by people like Owen Turtenwald, Seth Manfield, Louis Scott Vargas, and so on. BDM, who do you want to talk about there?
Well, you know what? You can't talk about the Magic World Championship and not talk about Yuya Watanabe. This is the 5th time he is playing in this tournament. No other player can say that. There's a couple of players playing in their 4th, but this is the 5th time he's playing. And, that's a half a decade of sustained excellence that is just a wonder to behold.
I can say that these 2 gentlemen will be covering every pick of Yuya Watanabe later this morning on our playback. They're not our feature drafter, though. That's going to be Owen Turtenwald in just a minute.
Wow.
But finally, let's take a look at our 5 pros, we're calling them. These are the players who've had great sustained excellence through the season. Here they come. You've got 2 players of the year, former players of the year, in Brad Nelson and Mike Sigrist. And Ian, Andrea Mengucci, a larger-than-life figure from Italy, winner, of course, of the World Magic Cup with Team Italy last year.
Yeah, he's just been on a tremendous tear these past couple of years, and he's just a really enjoyable player to watch. He's got a great personality, so I'll definitely be looking out for him.
And then Andrei Strasky from the European Union, of course, and there you see Sam Pardy wraps up our field. Gentlemen, the players are ready. They are down on the Paramount stage behind us. 24 of the finest for your entertainment. It is time for the opening draft of the World Championship 2016.
Hello there, and welcome to the booth here at the World Championship. We are in Seattle, Washington, and we've got the death lineup of 24 of the best players in the world. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. This is Matej Zadok. Hi, Matej. Welcome to the booth here.
Hey, Marshall.
You excited?
Yeah, of course.
We get to
just
watch
the best
draft.
tournament in the world.
Yeah, this is just the #1, the pinnacle for Magic players, right? You're a professional Magic player yourself. You have a sense for how important it is and how awesome it is to compete in this thing.
I mean, the World Championships is the one tournament you want to qualify for. Every single year, it's just the 24 best players, and once you're among those players, you really feel special.
It's funny. I heard Ben Stark say, he was like, this is the one time as a professional Magic player that you're really jealous, right? It's like everybody gets to play Worlds and you're at home and you're like, oh, I want to play in that tournament so badly.
Yeah, I was at the last Pro Tour. I was in contention for Draft Master, and I really wanted to get here, but of course, Marcio Carvalho crushed it. I didn't get to, but at least I get to be here watching all the players, and I think I'll learn a trick or two.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we're going to start things off today with Booster Draft. Let's take a look at the table that we're going to be watching here in at the first tournament. Excuse me, the first event of the tournament here. Kind of going around the table. The name that jumps out is on the far left. Owen Turtenwald, currently ranked number 1 on the top 25 pro rankings there, and in fact, that will be who we're going to watch draft here. But there's we're going to get a little sick of saying this, I think, by the end of the stretch here. But this is a stack table.
Yeah, of course, all 3 tables are stacked. I mean, if we can look at all the 3 pods, and we would be able to talk about those players for quite a long time there. I mean, Owen is a fantastic player, and he's actually in a very interesting spot at his table. Being passed by Yuya Watanabe, both players, they're recent inductees into the Hall of Fame. So I wonder how the dynamic is going to play out there.
Yeah, they're both Hall of Fame elect in Hawaii. In a few months' time, they will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. You can see Kazuyuki Takemura, JC Tao. JC, interestingly, he's local. You know, we're in Seattle here, right around PAX, and I know JC. I'm from here as well, and JC is a local Magic player who, of course, won a pro tour and now finds himself sitting here. And it is funny to see somebody who I played against him in, you know, a PTQ or something like that, and now it's like he's sitting down to draft with, like, I mean, look at this table.
Yeah, I played JC at the pro tour. He actually won, and it was funny to see that he was actually telling me he was like a limited expert, but actually, like, once he started playing more PTs, he realized that, okay, I like limited, but I still need some extra work. And he told me he was doing a lot of prep work for this one, especially in draft. You know, he has a full-time job,
yeah,
but he was still like coming home after every night and just drafting.
That is really, I'm curious to see if that pays off for him, because I know that most of the Pro Tour teams tended to focus more on the constructed rather than the draft, because they had done a lot of draft for the previous Pro Tour, and now they wanted to make sure that they got their constructed down. You can see heading around the table Andrea Mengucci, Brian Bronduin, and Ryuichi Tamada, as well as Kazuyuki Takemura at this table. So a stacked draft table to set things off for our first draft. Let's head on down. Hello and welcome to coverage of the Magic World Championship. I'm Marcel Sutcliffe in the booth with Matej Zatelkai, and we're all set for the first draft. This is I mean, there is just electricity down on the main stage here at the Paramount Theater in Seattle. It is an unbelievable setup, and let's set the stage here with our featured drafter, Owen Turtenwald from the United States. Take a look at Owen here. Doesn't look particularly bothered at the moment, but I know that there is adrenaline coursing through his veins. This is a huge deal for him. Remember, Owen finished second at this very event last year. Seth Manfield defeating him in the finals there, and he wants it more than anybody, and he's ready to go. Okay, so let's get down and take a look at his first booster draft here for Eldritch Moon. Going through, I saw a Dongriff in there somewhere. Ooh, a couple of Wolfkin bonds.
Yeah. But Redgriff probably the best card.
Yeah, for sure. There's also a Drownyard Behemoth.
Yeah, 2 blue, good blue emerge cards. Not much else going on in the pack. The Hamlet Captain, maybe if you really like green and going aggressive, that could be a good card. I think Redgriff is by far the best card. One of the downsides, though, emerge is one of the more popular archetypes in draft.
That's right.
So, but ultimately, Redgriff is good if you're blue in any kind of deck. It's going to make your deck.
Yeah, I agree, and it looks like Owen does as well. He's opting for the Redgriff over the Drownyard Behemoth. It's easier to cast, and like you said, it'll go into any blue deck, and Owen will be happy about that. So a solid pick for him first. The thing that he's going to be wondering about is what you just mentioned, which is that is one of the more popular archetypes. And so you don't necessarily want to commit too hard too early in case it doesn't end up being open. And now he's already facing interesting choices here. You know, he's got a couple of good blue cards pulled to the front, including an Ingenious Scob, which feels to me kind of where he wants to land here.
I think it's the best card in the pack. He also picked out Enlightened Maniac because it works well with his Redgriff, and has, again, Extricator of Sin also among the cards that he seems to like here. Which I'm quite, I mean, it's pretty decent in blue-white, but not as good as the Ingenious Cap that he took, and I think that's a good pick. There was also a Blessed Alliance in that pack, so he's passing some decent white cards to his left.
And he'll be noting that as he goes, but Ingenious Cap is really a premium common, and he's going to pick that up here, and it looks like blue looks relatively open. Now he's got, wow, is that a Drag Under or a Geist of the Archives? My goodness.
Yeah, both of them as well. There's also a Foul Emissary, which would work really nicely with the Red Grave if he wanted to branch out into green. But he did pass the 2 of the Hamlet Captains, so I'm not surprised he chose the Drag Under, chose to stay clear, and just all one color. He can still be flexible enough and pick up the second one later down the road.
So he's going to snap up the Drag Under here, and 3 for 3 on blue cards effectively here for Owen Turtenwald in the early stages, and 3 good cards as well. So this is a nice start for Owen's World Championship run, and all of a sudden it's dried up. A Convolute is the only blue card in the pack, so he's looking at a Make Mischief and a Prey Upon.
Yeah, I mean, I think Prey Upon is decent enough, but the Guardians of the Guardian there, the 2/2 for 2 in white is looking also quite good.
Yeah,
but
Guardian
he
of
needs to
Pilgrims.
branch out into a second color here, and needs to make the choice between green and white. Goes for the green card. It's interesting because he did pass a couple of green cards at the start, and then some white cards as well. So it's a hedge. What I want to know, there's no good red cards that have been seen so far. There's a Golden Peg Outcast now, but the Priest is a very good signal.
Yeah, that's a big signal. So Sigardian Priest this late in the pack. Also of note here, there's no blue cards for Owen to take. So he's got a Geist-fueled Scarecrow and a Sigardian Priest pulled to the front. And like you said, Matej, that's a good signal. The Wildenpack Outcast also would catch my eye there. That card's very good.
It is, but he saw almost no other good red cards except one of the other Wildenpack Outcasts. So I'm not surprised he went for the Sigardian Priest. He might be regretting not taking the Guardian, the previous pack. Would be a nice pickup as well. As you said, there's no good blue.
This is going to be a real challenge for Owen at this point because he looked like he was committed to blue early, and it looked like it was open early. And he's had a couple of packs in a row with really nothing going on for blue. It looks like he's pulled an It of the Horrid Swarm to the front of the pack, and he's going to take that here.
Yep. So just to recap, he started off with 3 blue cards. Now actually has 2 green and a white card. So he's still relatively flexible on where he wants to be, especially as it looks down.
All right, let's see what he finds here. Well, now there's a spontaneous mutation in this pack. He's also found a Dawngryph and a few other good white options here, it looks like, as well.
Statfest Cathar. It's also a nice pickup. So actually, there was also the Drugskull Shieldmate.
Yes,
he goes for a white card. He actually might be forced to switch into green-white because both these colors seem somewhat open, especially white.
Yes, they seem very open at this point. And look at this. Now he's got a Borrowed Grace here that he can play as well, and that's just going to go right into this sort of low to the ground, like you said, the Steadfast Cathar type deck. And he's going to pick that up. So once again, we see Owen showing his prowess here at being flexible, and he's really being challenged to be flexible here as well, given that he did have 3 picks in before he kind of got derailed off blue.
Yeah, blue
Here's the pack that he
completely cut off, by the way. If there were no good blue cards in the last 4 packs, so there's a lot of blue players. Or alternative, the pack's just been really just weak on blue.
Yeah, that is one of the things that Owen is going to be thinking. Oh, there's a Guardian of Pilgrims and a Steadfast Cathar.
That's a signal. 2 good white cards with 5 cards left in the pack. Owen should be white. I'm wondering if to his left there's also not another white drafter out because he was passing quite a bit, but that was a very good signal.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll find out in the 3rd pack.
Ooh, yeah.
For now, this is just working his way down the stretch here. Now, where Owen sits currently is that he could be green-white or he could be white-blue. We're assuming that in Owen's mind he's thinking, I'm going to move into white. White's the open color here.
Very likely. I was a little surprised that it didn't take the green 1-drop.
Crossroads Consecrator.
Yeah, that one. Just because it can be quite decent in green-white humans. But if you remember, the first 2 packs, he passed 2 Hamlet Captains.
Yes,
so that human kind of archetype is just probably not where he's going to be at.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look as Owen has his review period for pack 1 here, and he gets to take a look at all the cards that he's drafted. And this is going to be a really important little stretch of time for him because you only get a short period of time, and he really needs to map out what his plan is, right? He could still be blue if he gets hooked up in this pack, and he is likely to get good blue cards in this pack as he did not pass very many himself, and then in the the last 3/4 of the pack had just nothing.
Yeah, the one thing that of note for when looking at this pack, in blue-white, which he seems to favor, he only has 7 cards. So even with
7
later
playable cards.
yeah, 7
total.
playable cards. Yeah. So he should be looking at even in later picks, maybe pick up a couple of weaker cards, maybe instead of taking something from his opponents in the draft, just to make sure that he has 23 playables.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's certainly something that Owen's going to have in his head. And let's get into pack number 2. Of course, this one is also Eldritch Moon, and he's found another Sigardian Priest, and somewhat awkwardly another Wretched Gryph as well.
Yeah, Wretched Gryph is not that great in blue-white, actually. There's an Ironclad Slayer, which I would also probably take over, just in case I would have some auras. But I'm a huge fan of Sigardian Priest, and it's a great 2-drop, and exactly where you want to be with your white deck, just curving out.
Yeah, and it looks like that's what he's going to take. There is a Bloodhall Priest in there as well, but that's so far away from any of the colors that Owen's touched, he can't really consider it here.
He can maybe wheel, maybe Geist of the Lonely Vigil, 2-mana, 2/3. Defender Fly is not that it's great in blue-white because it's hard to get Delirium, but he could wheel it. Sometimes it can be useful.
Okay.
But the Sigardian Priest was a clear front-runner for me in this pack, and he took it.
Yeah, I don't think he even considered really the other picks at this point. He knows that he wants to move in on white as hard as he can. All right, there's a Dongryph and a Spectral Reserves in white, and then he's also looking at a couple of other cards like a Noose Constrictor in green.
Again, no good blue cards, and you can see he's a little fidgety there with his cards. Also unhappy that there's just no blue coming. He's probably going to stick with white and again keep his options open to down the line. But he was expecting some blue cards, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And the interesting thing about this is, like, let's say he takes a Dongryph here, which is what he's got pulled to the front of the pack. You know, there's nothing wrong with Dongryph. It's a playable card, but that's not what you want to be picking this early in the pack. And, you know, I get that same kind of body language sense that you got there too, Matej, where, you know, the card's getting shuffled a little quicker and a little like, this, you know, sure, it's a playable, but I want something a little better than this. That's supposed to be a choking restraints or something.
There's the Ingenious Cop, so a good blue card, but quite a late Galvanic Bombardment as well. But remember, he saw no good red cards, so I assume to his right, Yuya Watanabe is in red, and he's going to be happy about the Bombardment because Owen will be forced to take a playable card for his deck. And if he takes the Ingenious Cop here, he's firmly saying, I'm blue-white.
Yeah, this is the big pick for him. I don't really see another great option. You know, he could take an Ulvenwald Captive if he wanted to keep those green dreams alive. He does have a Prey Upon, but like you said earlier, it feels like that's not where he's well positioned. So he's not going to take it. He's going to go Ingenious Scob, and he's going to have to ride this one out. This is going to be, I think, one of those drafts where, you know, Owen's going to have to get fortunate in that third pack to really get hooked up. Otherwise, it's going to be like this. He's going to have a bunch of Dongryphs and, you know, maybe a Borrowed Grace to win the game. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not what you were hoping for when you sit down for your World Championship draft.
This is the same pack as like 3 packs ago, right?
Yeah.
Spectral Reserve, Dongryph, and basically not much else.
Yeah.
So he's going to pick up a flyer one way or another. One thing I want to note, though, is the problem for Owen now in his blue-white deck, he has almost only creatures. He has almost no spells.
I know. He's got the one Borrowed Grace and one Drag Under. And like he needs to find removal or ways to interact with his opponent as we move forward, and he just has not even had the option to pick that thus far.
Yeah, he does have a Turnicide, but that's more of a sideboard card. Doesn't take inventory here. That's not that useful. But I quite like Lunarch Mantle, by the way.
Okay.
It works better if you're just curving out with creatures. You know, you just play your 2-drop, put your Lunarch Mantle, and just hope it's going to be enough. So he takes it here. And also, it can help him enable Delirium if maybe he can wield those Geists of the Lonely Vigils that he was passing around the table.
Yeah, I find this interesting. Like I don't like Lunarch Mantle as a card very much, but when you're in Owen's position, I like it a lot more because he's going to need to find more creative, risky ways to win games potentially. Here's a Blessed Alliance. That's a nice pickup.
Yes, it looks like a nice pickup on the surface, but it actually doesn't fit his deck that well. He's all creatures. He's supposed to be attacking, but ultimately, once he gets into a racing situation, which he wants to, it could prove to be a very good card.
For sure. But anyway, you know, cards like Lunarch Mantle here could be an avenue to victory for Owen if he can't find more traditional deck build that involves more interaction with his opponent's creatures.
That's a good pickup. Another Steadfast Cathar, a 2-drop.
Very good.
Yeah. He just needs to be on the board. One of the biggest problems with the blue-white archetype is that if you don't get on the board quickly, it's very hard to come back because your 3-drop is there like a Dongryph and your 4-drop is like a Spectral Reserves, all very small creatures. So if your opponent was on the play and curved out, it's very hard to come back.
See what he finds here. I don't think Providence is what he's looking for.
Long Road Home is card of people haven't liked that much, but it can be quite useful, especially if he's low on tricks. So
Did see that there's a spontaneous mutation in there as well, but he didn't even look at it.
no, it's not great in blue-white. It's just you have so few ways to get cards in your grave. As we said, he's almost only creatures, so
Yeah.
and it's really not worth it trying to trade aggressively.
Yeah, he could take the expensive trick Give No Ground here, or he could just pick up a Fogwalker or a Turn Aside, something like that. Oh, sorry, there's no Fogwalker there, but yeah, a Turn Aside. Here's what
already
he ends
has
up
one,
taking.
so-
Yeah, it's not a premium sideboard card in a deck like this because most of your creatures tend to have similar power levels. You're not really protecting some big bomb. It's like, yeah, you killed my Dawn Griff. Congrats.
Yeah, this pack was interesting. I remember the pack from the first when the first time around. There was only the Laboratory Brute that he picked up. There was no other blue cards, and it actually made the wheel. I'm not saying it's a great card, but blue seems fairly shallow at this pool,
Yeah.
or people picking it highly. So I would figure someone would take it, but no dice.
Yeah, this is tough. Owen's deck is not very good right now, and I wouldn't call it terrible, right? He's got a curve, he's got creatures, he's got something going on, but this just doesn't have the power level punch that you were hoping. He doesn't have removal, just full stop, like he's got a drag under or whatever, but he cannot just say, okay, choking restraints your creature, it's gone. And he also doesn't have any bombs, right? He doesn't have any of those, rare or, really powerful cards that you look for in booster draft to help give you an edge against your opponent. He's got a very fair deck. Now, to be, fair to Owen, he's kind of a master at playing these type of decks. I mean, I've seen him make sealed pools that look similar to this where you're like, you don't have removal. Like, how do you win games against, these decks? And he just has a knack for doing that. So I don't think this is a disaster for Owen, but it's not the power level that he was hoping for sure.
But ultimately, it's fine. Like I think Owen has a very clear game plan with his what it looks like it's going to be a blue-white deck. He has a couple of early drops they can trade. The double Guardian Priest can hold down the fort for quite a long time, and with his double Dawn Griff Retrograde, he just wants to get it on the board with flyers and just stall the board long enough to win the game.
Yeah,
I think he can do that. But in the last pack, I think Owen needs to prioritize flyers. And tricks, good tricks.
Yes.
He only has a few, and also he wouldn't mind to pick up a couple of late early drops as well. I mean, he's already set up nicely on the 2 slot, and the double Ingenious Cub is very nice on 3. But a couple of 2 or 3 would be nice.
Yeah. It looks like his curve looks pretty good. Also, no disrespect to the Sigardian Priest. They do act as removal in most matchups too, so he does have that going for him. Okay, here it is. This is Shadows over Innistrad booster pack. Let's see what Owen can get. Ideal would be always watching, I assume, something like that. Anyway, he did not pick that up, though. He did pick up a flyer with the Niblis of Dusk.
And it's fine. It's a 3-drop flyer. You can do some extra.
It kind of describes his whole deck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine. Another
that's
decent
what you
card.
need.
Yeah.
I mean, that's usually how the deck works. I like the Neglected Heirloom as well, but he doesn't have any transform creatures really, so it's just a small time equipment +1/+1. So I think he's going to go with the Nibelus here. But again, look at the pack. It's fairly weak. There's a couple of good cards for some archetypes, but overall it's a weak pack.
Yeah, he's going to take another solid 3-drop with the Niblis of Dusk.
One thing I want to note, though, is you might watch this draft and think like, oh, this is not going well for Owen, but ultimately the packs have not been that strong. So I don't think there's anyone on the table who has like, a powerhouse deck. And look at this card.
Griffspoon, very nice.
Fantastic card. Also, welcome to the fold, which is not that great in blue-white, especially because he has no discard outlets. So I think Griffspoon is going to be picked here, but it's a really good card for him, especially on an Ingenious Cop. That does work.
That's a close pick, though, because if you go 2-drop, 3-drop, welcome to the fold, your 3-drop, it is so hard for them to win.
I mean,
I would not be surprised to see him take it here. It is so powerful.
I'd be very, very surprised. This is a close pick. Wow.
Oh, he took Welcome to the Fold.
Interesting. I mean, I really like Welcome to the Fold as well, but usually I want some sort of enable because I've lost some games where my opponent just didn't play a creature with
nothing you could target.
Yeah.
No, that does happen. And I mean, there's a just the win for Owen here. No white
blue
cards.
cards, finally.
Yeah, there's the blue cards. No white cards in this one. But yeah, I can see what you're saying. The Griffspoon is really a fantastic card for a deck like this. It can tend to get off to a quick start, and then, those steadfast Cathars on the ground start to kind of age a little bit, and all of a sudden they're attacking for 3 in the air.
I think there was a very big case to be made for the Griffin, especially because of the Ingenious Scouts, because that's such a neat way to finish off the game somewhat quickly. But as you said, it's also great on the true drops, and it gives him some late game power. If his creature gets killed, he can just buy back the Griffin. Even putting it on a Dawn Griff, for the last couple of points of damage could be useful.
Yeah, that's a really cool pick. I'm curious. Ooh, Thraben Inspector. What else is there?
Compelling Deterrence,
Okay.
God Missing, Nephalia, Moondrakes. Good stuff.
This pack has a lot for him. I'm actually really partial to the Thraben Inspector. I think that card is just absolutely excellent, and it looks a little small when you look at it. You're like, oh, whatever. It just tends to pull its weight, and it looks like Owen agrees he's going to take the Inspector. This is a valuable lesson for people learning Limited, that it's not just about power level, it's also about curve. He passed a 7 mana spell there that looks like a big bomb when you look at it, but he actually took just a little 1-drop over it instead.
Some white cards. Emissary of the Sleep, Cathar's Companion. Nothing really that exciting. Well, there's still a Cold Wolf in the pack.
Yeah, I saw.
I think to his left he has Kazuki Tekimura, and if he ended up in green, I think he'll have a good deck.
Decent chance he's in green. Those 2 Hamlet captains coming to him, he may have moved in on those.
So
A little unfortunate for him that he did see a few white cards early from Owen, but then Owen took a U-turn into white.
Yeah.
Curious to see how that draft went for him.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain Yuya Watanabe to Owen's right is in red, judging just by the picks.
Is that another Just to
Yeah,
Win?
another Just to Win.
Hey, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Those type of temporary effects are very good in these blue-white decks.
Exactly. He just needs to get time to get his flyers online and start swinging. And the Just to Wins are really nice with the Ingenious Scouts that he has as well. Just prowess.
Oh,
and
God.
and just bounce your guy, swing. It can lead to some big blowouts.
Yeah. That Welcome to the Fold Griffspoon pick was interesting. I'm curious to see what everybody thinks. You can put in the chat and let us know. What would you choose in that position? You've been with us the whole time. You've been watching the draft. You know what's up.
I think this is an interesting pack because there's a Stern Constable, and we know he has the Welcome to the Fold, and he just picked up 2 Just to Wins.
2 Just to Wins, yeah.
So he
that
could
is
actually
interesting.
make it work, and I think he should pick it. I think he even might play it.
I do too. That's weird. I would not have assumed that sentence would be uttered by either of us, but I do think that that's the case. Stern Constable should be considered here. I don't know if it makes the cut, but maybe.
A couple of late cards. I don't think there's anything good in particular. There's, again, some green cards. The Silver for Partisan still in the pack. Yeah, we'll see. I want to know if actually Owen decides to play the Stern Concept. I think that's going to be interesting because ultimately it might just be what his deck needs, because we felt like his creature's not that great, but together with his Guardian Priest, what he can just do, end of turn, tap 2 of your guys, untap, tap 2 more guys, swing with the team. So it could actually be a very valid line of action, especially if he combines it with Just to Win. He can deal with a lot more creatures.
Yeah. All right, so this is winding down the booster draft here early in the morning at the World Championship. We're watching Owen Turtenwald, our top-ranked player currently.
Yeah, he has to. He can hate draft some cards. Like the Watcher in the Web is actually a very good card against him, and still Silent Observer made its way around the table.
Yeah,
he might actually play that. He actually is pretty low on 4 drops. His deck is very focused on 2 and 3 drops, and I like a good flyer.
Silberland Snapper, not super likely to make the main deck here, but
might sideboard it in, but unlikely. Runaway Carriage also.
The Ethereal Guidance is kind of interesting just because he did end up passing a couple of Spectral Reserves and taking the Griffs over them.
Yeah. I would have liked to see him have at least 1 reserves over one of the Dawn Griffs, but ultimately the difference is not that big.
I do know that Owen likes a Dawn Griff. And that's going to do it for the draft here. Owen Turtenwald is going to put together this blue-white deck. Yeah, wake up, Owen. It's time to play the World Championship, buddy. This is a big day.
It's still early.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and this is, of course, the first event of what's going to be a pretty long tournament for these players. Now, they don't have quite as grueling of a daily schedule as you'd be used to at the Pro Tour at a GP, but, it is stretched out a little further. And, of course, you're playing against some of the very, very best players in the world every single round. You don't get a round off here.
Yeah, I mean, especially today, it's the 7 rounds total. So that makes it extra tough because, like, your day one is probably going to determine most of your performance in the World Championship. So if you have a bad day one, it's just not going to end up well, even though you have 7 more to go.
That's right. Now, the players are going to go now build their deck, so they're going to get a specific amount of time. They're going to sit down by themselves. They can't have any help or anything like that, and they're going to build these. While they do that, though, we've got Rich Hagen at the news desk.
Thanks very much, Marshall, and thanks to Matej Big Z Zatlkai. They're part of our coverage team here for 5 days of awesome at PAX. So Owen Turtenwald, he's underway. He's drafted 3 packs, 2 of Eldritch Moon, 1 of Shadows over Innistrad. The other 23 players have done the same, and they're all going to sit down now and take 25 minutes or so to build their decks. How are we going to fill that time? We're going to show you another player, every pick of every pack of Yuya Watanabe in just a moment. Now, the way it's set up, Yuya was sitting on Owen Turtenwald's right, so feeding cards to Owen in packs 1 and 3, back the other way in pack 2. Ian Duke and BDM will be with you in just a moment. But the rest of the table, JC Tao, champion of Oath of the Gatewatch. Andre Strasky, one of our regional winners. Ryuichi Tamada is there. BBD, another master, the Grand Prix master. Andrea Mengucci from Italy. Watanabe, Turtenwald, and finally, Kazuyuki Takamura. So why don't we head down across the studio to BDM and Ian Duke. It's time for the complete replay of Yuya Watanabe.